Howdy, Buffalo Bart here, and welcome. I want to thank everybody ahead of time for coming in here and taking a gander. Still not back up to 100%. Sorry, I'm moving junk around here. Still not back up to 100%. Am feeling a little bit better right now. So I figure while I'm feeling halfway decent, I might as well go ahead and kick off the Wednesday night stream a little bit early and cover a couple things, and then also do some questions and answers just for anybody who has any questions about the Synty Studios assets and using them. As with always, I'm going to go ahead and set up a character to work with instead of using the Ue4 Mannequin. I'm using a blank project, and the asset packs that I have so far in here is the Polygon Nature and the Fantasy Characters. So there's no first person, no third person, nothing in here. So the first thing I need to do is click on Add New, and I'm going to do this relatively quickly. I've done a number of videos on how to set up the animations, basic animations for the Synty Studios characters. I'm going to select third person, add to project, and it's already done, so close that. And then I'm not going to need any of this stuff. I'm not going to delete it just yet, but I'm going to go ahead and set up my folder structure the way I like. I'm going to go ahead and create a new folder called Characters, and start off with Blueprints. I'm going to set up another one called Animations, another one which we'll call Mesh, and that's all I'm going to need for right now. In Animations folder, I'm going to go ahead and create another one called Unarmed. So that's that. Now in my Blueprints folder, I'm going to go ahead and go to Third Person BP Blueprints. I'm going to take a third person character. I'm going to left click and drag it into the Blueprints folder and copy here. Next thing I'm going to do is select it and then hit F2, and I'm going to call this player underscore base. That's what I call my normal character. We will come back to him momentarily. The next thing I want to do is go to the Polygon Fantasy Characters, go to the Characters folder, and I'm going to grab the skeleton. There's just one skeleton for all the characters. So I'm going to left click on this one. Now this is something you would do if you're going to map multiple Synty Studios characters from different asset packs into one single animation system, which is freaking awesome. So I'm going to grab that skeleton right here. I'm going to left click and drag it into my mesh folder, copy here, and then I'm going to rename it to sk underscore poly underscore skeleton, and that's lovely. All I need to do for now. The next thing I need to do is I'm going to go ahead and go back to the characters folder. I'm going to left click on and control left click on every one of the skeletal meshes for all the characters in here. Now that I've got all of just the skeletal meshes selected, right click on any of them and go to Skeleton, Assign Skeleton, select the SK Poly Skeleton. You can call it whatever you want. That's what I'm just choosing to call mine. And then hit Accept. And you're going to have to do that for each one of those that you had selected. So if you've got 20 selected, you got to do this 20 times. Not necessary if you're just doing one asset pack, but if you're combining multiples, like you're going to add in the dungeons and knights and the fantasy and all, you're mixing like 3 or 4 asset packs together and you want one animation system, this is how you would go about doing it. It is quick and easy. So that's done. We're going to do Save All. Next we're going to go back to our mesh, go to our skeletal mesh. Now we need to pick out a character. Let's go with the Baird. That's good enough. And we'll apply to asset and hit save. Don't need to worry about retargeting on anything on here because Synty Studios did their homework ahead of time. They're already done. So the next thing we have to do is come over here to the mannequin folder. And we need to go to the characters and then mesh. Now, we need to go to the Ue4 Mannequin Skeleton, open that up, and the first thing we need to do is, if you don't have Retargeting Manager already open as a tab up here, then click right there and it'll add it to it. So select rig, open up this little drop down, select humanoid rig, and then we need to change the pose of this guy. Left click on the upper arm and just go up by 50. Lower arm, we need to go down by 10 and back 20. And then the hand, we need to come up 10. Do that on the other side, up 50, down 10, back 20 on the lower arm, and up 10 on the hand. Now we need to go to modify pose, use current pose, and save. And then we're just about done. We need to go to the animations folder, and I'm going to select the third person animation blueprint. I'm going to right click on that, retarget, duplicate and retarget, select our poly skeleton. In the replace box right here, type in third person underscore, and I'm going to replace that with polygon. Actually, no, I'm going to do unarmed underscore. So now this is going to be my unarmed animation blueprint set. And then I will hit the change button so that I can select the folder that I want to use. Go to the animation to unarmed, click OK, then click retarget. And we are done with that part. Save all. Now we can go to our blueprints folder for our character. Go to our player base. Now, I'm not going to use VR, so I'm going to select that, get rid of it. I'm just doing this to clean up the blueprint a little bit. I don't need gamepad input, so I'm going to delete that. These guys are fine. I'm not using a touch input, so I'm going to dump that. You don't have to do all that. I'm just weird and OCD. So I'm just going to organize things. Again, not necessary, but doesn't hurt. So we're good to go. Now we just need to change one thing here. And we are ready to use a character. So actually go to the viewport. So you can look at your character, select your mesh, come over here to Skeletal Mesh, click right here, and I want to use the male wizard or male sorcerer. Yeah, let's be him. Change our animation class to our unarmed, and there you go. Now there's one other thing I would like to do here, and you notice that the width of the collision capsule is a little bit large. So if you select the capsule component, you can actually change that to say 38. Tightens it up a little bit, lets you get into a little bit tighter areas. Now technically I would want to go ahead and lower this capsule, but I'm not going to worry about it for right now. So hit compile and save. Now I already have the map loaded ahead of time for the Synty Studios Nature asset pack. Oh, well, Synty Studios, I love you guys so much. But yeah, gotta clean up your world outliner. And this is not Synty Studios, this is the guys that's doing the maps for them. Just right click on demonstration editor, create folder, map stuff, and then you can grab the main items, will go in there. And then I would create another one for FX. And the butterfly is actually in FX. So I'm going to grab these emitters, throw them into the FX. Landscape stuff, skybox stuff, post-process. going to throw that in map stuff. Little things like this make the difference when you're actually trying to work on your maps. Being neat and organized. So, I'm not going to go through and move all of them. I just wanted to discuss that really quickly. Is getting neat and organized ahead of time will make for a lot cleaner, neater map. So, even though almost everything in here is foliage, I'm just going to go ahead and, well, just grab the rest of the stuff. Just so I can clean it up. That makes everything a lot neater to work with. So, okay, I'm going to go to my world settings, make sure my game mode override is set to third-person game mode, and selected game mode. I want default pawn class to be my player base. And in the map stuff, was there a player start? No, there was not. So, quickly I'm going to scroll out here, and I'm going to find a location. This is just a quick, so you can see, get an overview of how the map looks. I'm actually going to come down right here, and I'm going to throw a player start into the map here. It's a complicated procedure. All you have to do is this. Oh, okay, done. So let's hit play, and now you can see I have a mouse cursor. As soon as I hit play, I despise that with a passion. So I'm going to go back into my characters folder, blueprints, go to my player _ base, and the first thing I'm going to do is go to event, begin play. And from that event begin play, I want to go ahead and set input to game only. You can do this in the map, or you can do this in the player. Doing it in the player is always going to work. So get player controller, and want to set show mouse cursor, leave it unchecked, connect that to here. And then I'm going to grab all of these highlighted together, and I'm going to right click, and I'm going to collapse nodes. And we're going to call this get rid of the cursor at start. But as you can see, when you mouse over, you can see the structure underneath there, but there's no exit to it. So double click on it, and because of my OCD, I have to re-clean up everything. And then drag from your executable here to the output box. Now compile and save. Go back to your event graph, and now you see you've got an exit to that. So now we compile, save one more time. We can close that. We hit play, and now we have no mouse cursor, and we can walk around. So let's get a quick tour. If you are not familiar with this asset pack, wow, okay, you should be. If you're working with Synty Studios assets, any of them, and you want to just bring a little bit more life into your maps and make them just look a little bit better, you notice the bush next to me is actually moving, the trees are actually swaying, the grass is actually moving. Those features alone, adding a little bit nicer foliage, makes it well worth it. Little effect that you can put on your water to simulate that it might be flowing water. A really nice touch. Over here is a waterfall with some particle effects right there at the base of the waterfall. Really nice. I like the terrain material of the rocks, so it looks a little bit more natural in the water. Instead of just having a stream cutting through, you actually have some nice textures there. This little bridge, little fence pieces. Part of a chest over here. You got this little dark area. Oh, this is kind of weird. Cool. You got like green water, lily pads, kind of a swamp feel. Nice, really nice. The trees, just like any other Synty Studios asset, the materials are flexible. So you can see like this tree with the brown leaves over here is actually the same as the one with the pink over there, and you can set it up with green. You can change the materials on the individual ones to kind of suit the project you're working on. Road sign, great asset pack. So if you just saw it just then, right there, there's a butterfly. And there's a purple one, you got a blue one, there's other different colors of butterflies. Those are effects that you can add into any map. There's blowing leaves. Yeah, I could talk about this asset pack for quite a while. There's a lot of cool stuff in here. I'm sorry, if you're going to take you want Synty Studios assets like I do for my projects, and you want to go ahead and oh, and by the way, collision issue. I don't remember if it was this tree or if it was this rock. So we know, looking over here, there's a tree over here by this side. Let's walk to that tree again. Since I can't get close enough to here, I'm going to assume it's that tree. So that tree doesn't have a good collision box on it. Minor thing. Go to my details panel. Click on my static mesh. For now, again, not the best way to do this, but a temporary short stop or short quick fix. What you need to do is actually make an actual collision for it. But inconsequential. This will be good enough for our demonstration purposes. Yeah, that took care of it. So the actual discussion, what I was actually doing this video for, wasn't about how awesome this asset pack was, or these characters. I got to do one more thing, and then we'll actually get into the materials portion of it. Go to my character, and I'm going to go ahead and move my event to begin play for now. I want to add in first person camera. So I'm going to go to my mesh, add a component, camera. I'm going to call this my FPS camera. I am going to scroll down, turn off auto activate. I want to turn on use pawn control. That's actually a pawn control rotation. Then I want to go ahead and type in keyboard V, and now we have the V key, and I'm on pressed flip, flop, and not the stylish foot gear. Yes, I haven't made that stupid joke in quite a while, but I had to. How's it going? Alright, so what I want to do here is I want to get a reference to my FPS camera, and I want to get a reference to my follow camera. And all I'm going to do is make this relatively quick. I want to deactivate when I pressed the button the first time. Control C, Control V, and deactivate on the other one here. And then from the follow camera, actually no, from the FPS camera, we'll drag up here, and we want to activate. So what we're doing here is we're gonna deactivate one camera and activate the other one. It's not all we need to do here, but we're gonna have to do a couple little other things. So to make it look and work correctly, what we need to do here is set use controller rotation yaw, and we're going to need 2 of those. So there, use controller rotation yaw, yes and no. So this should work, but we're going to need to go into our mesh, into our camera. You notice the camera is right here at his feet. We need to go ahead and bind that to the, search for head, and I'm going to click on yaw, turn off real time so we can stop the camera, select our rotation. We need to rotate it 90, and we need to rotate it up 90, and I'm going to turn off snapping, and I'm going to bring it forward to about here and up. So that's pretty good. So if we go back to real time, compile, save, let's drag it over here, make sure it looks right. So now when we hit play, if we hit the V key, we can look down, we can jump, everything's good to go. And we hit V, we go back to that view. Quick and easy. Okay, so sorry, that was just one thing that kind of bugged me a little bit. I want to be able to switch back and forth between my views so I could look down and check out the scenery and that kind of stuff a little bit better. And hit the V key and go back so you can switch back and forth. Alright, so materials. Now that we have a good character we can use to walk around and check things out with. Let's go to the Polygon Nature Asset Pack. And inside here, got your effects. I'm just going to quickly go through some of the stuff in here. Got your butterfly, butterfly orange, fire, grass blowing, leaves, leaves golden, rain, stream waterfall, river stream wide, smoke, snow, sun shafts, waterfall, waterfall 2, and river stream small. I'm going to go ahead and click Save All. Maps. Demonstration. This is the one that I'm in right now. That's going to give you a good demonstration of how everything looks. Materials. Going into the materials folder, you've got materials for your different flowers and grass and so forth. Those are all great. You've got alt, which is going to be alternatives for the trees and stuff. Base. Matte terrain base. So that's one we're actually going to take a look at here shortly. Let's need to look. This is actually landscape, so that's a good thing. So this will give us an idea of what we need to work with here. So you see that there is an actual landscape here instead of it being just tiles or things like that. So we'll take a look at that one, but let's go ahead and close our player and go to new level, default, get rid of that, and I'm going to grab these 3 just because I want to get them out of my view. It's good. Get rid of that. So what I want to do now is go to landscape, and I'm just going to do 2 by 2. You know, actually, let's make it 1 by 1. Just need a nice little small terrain so I can test things with. And then I'm going to go ahead and hit create. So this is our terrain to work with. So if you wanted to, you could go into your sculpting mode, change your brush, you know, add some different terrain and stuff like that. I'm not gonna, it doesn't matter. You could have used a height map and made your own custom terrain, or, you know, use real world terrains. But I'm going to go back to here, and lighting needs to be rebuilt. Who cares what you think? The next thing I'm going to do is select my terrain, and instead of at 100, I'm setting that bastard to 0. 3100 by 3100 is fine because it's actually indexing off of here. So I'm actually going to go ahead and drop a player start back into the map. I'm going to put it at 0, 0, and 100, and make sure that I go to my world setting, game mode override, third person game mode, and hit play. There, we have our world. And there is much rejoicing. So we want to apply a landscape material. So let's go back to here, select this, our landscape itself, scroll down. For our landscape material, let's try matte terrain base. Let's see what happens if we select that puppy dog. Oh no, it's black. It's terrible. We've ruined our entire map. It's just horrific. Click on this. Go to paint. Oh, look at there. They're all here, but what we're going to need to do is one more thing. So let's go ahead, and I'm just going to do this build lighting only. But our terrain is all black. It looks terrible. How are we going to fix that? Well, it's pretty easy. First thing I want to do is go over here to my content, assets, new folder, and assets. Go into it, and I'm going to create a new folder called materials. So you can see there's nothing in there right now. But what we want to do here is, first off, this brush size is going to annoy the crap out of me, being 8 million cubic meters. So we want to go ahead and, well, that is kind of a cool effect, dragging that around. We've got all these different things we can try here, and we need to go ahead and give them a layer. Create layer info, weight blended layer normal. We go to my assets folder and materials, and I'm just going to leave the name the way it is. Click OK, and there we go. There's the grass. We're going to have to do that for each one of these. But it's worth doing it. That was rock. We'll go to Pebbles Sand. You'll see why we're doing this very shortly. Pebbles. Gobbles. Sorry, South Park coding. And we got pebbles, go to leaves, and then we got snow is after this. Alright, so we got 2 left. Leaves, green, and mud. So once you've got these done, then we can actually paint our terrain. Now the first thing that's going to happen is I'm going to go ahead and do save all. So we're all good to go, and we're going to call this our test. No, we're not. We're going to cancel, and we're going to go to our content, do this correctly, and make a maps folder. You always want a maps folder spelled just like that in the root of your content. You'll thank me later for that. Map. Thank you. Because when you go to package it later and compile it later, you're going to need your maps to be in that folder. Just saying. So we already got grass covering everything here, but let's go ahead and select this, and I want to paint a little bit of mud. So let's put some mud in here, but let's actually make our brush a little bit smaller. So now as I click on it to start painting it, oh no, we just killed our map again. No, it's just compiling new sets of shaders. What's up, Lex? So now we can actually paint our terrain. and give it a little bit more of a liveliness. So at first, I've got everything set, for my tool strength, everything low. But you can sit there and turn your tool strength up and mess around with painting on your terrain. So mess around with it, see what you like. Pebbles, sand. Every time you pick a new material, it's going to do the same thing. It's going to freak out for a minute. It's going to compile the new shaders, and you go from there. I know you can't see diddly squat here because the lighting of this whole deal here. You see there was like shading for rocks right there, or for pebbles or whatever. Now that's actually the brush, the material itself. Let's see if I can get it to happen again here. So like I said, every time you pick a new material, you're going to have the tile that you're working on is going to do this. So take your time, paint your terrain, do your thing. Let's see if we add in, let's go back to our mud. So if I go back over here, I can actually turn up my brush tool strength. And the higher you turn that strength, the more drastic your painting is going to become. Your fall off, same thing. Now the way that these materials are laid out is pretty well, but you can see how dark this is going to paint here. Your brush fall off is going to be the amount of, it's kind of hard to see on here whenever you're actually painting. Let me actually take my brush size back up a little bit. So whenever I do it, if I have my brush fall off all the way up to 1, whenever I'm painting on it and I hit it pretty hard, there's not going to be much of a blend between the layers. It's going to be a little bit more harsh. But if I lower my my brush fall off, whenever it's set to the lowest number, it's going to be at its harshest. So you can see there's almost no blending whatsoever. So when you paint with that, it's like, holy crap, it's just solid. You're not going to have much in the way of making it blend. So if you want to hit an area really hard and you say, okay, this has got to be this big, heavy, muddy area, but it's really harsh on the edges, and you may want that. But if you don't, then increase your brush fall off, and you can only be 1 or 0 or increments in between. You can do that, and then it'll actually still be kind of harsh on the edges, but it'll start to blend it a little bit on the edges instead of being more harsh. I don't know if you can tell the difference there versus taking it all the way to 0. You can see how white this is. So if I come over here and just bam, just hit it hard. But if I go to my fall off and change it to 1, you can see the white area inside my circle. And it's my alarm saying that I have 30 minutes till it's time for me to start streaming. So you can see the difference between that spot and that spot. So you can adjust your brush fall off in between to kind of make the difference between hard, soft, and kind of blend it the way you want. Tool strength, if you turn it down all the way, it's only going to apply a light coloring to it, where, well, you don't want 0, but so it's just a light dusting. But the more you increase it, the more it's going to apply the color. I'm not trying to even be close to awesome on this. You can see here, one thing I do notice is the size that So let's paint this rock right in here. You see this landscape material, well, it looks like frickin' rocks. They're a little bit on the large side. Let's see if I can remember how to actually fix that. On the I don't remember, but there's a way to actually scale the material inside there, because those rocks are really, really big. What if I wanted smaller rocks? Well, let's try Pebbles. I don't know if I've used this one. Nope, haven't used that one yet. So as soon as you apply it, again, you have to wait for it to compile shaders, and then okay, so you see what it's doing there? It's actually adding little rocks in there. These are not physical rocks, although they look like it. But they're over the top of grass. So they're actually just painted on three-dimensional looking rocks. But if we go in here and play, they're flat, like part of the material. So they're not actually rocks on the terrain. They just look like it. Why would you want something to look like rocks? Well, what if it's an area you don't want your player to get to, but you want to paint that wall to look like it's a rocky wall, or an occasional rock that you're looking down out of the window into an area. If it's an area that the player can't go to, it'd be a good way of actually doing it. So leaves, I haven't done anything with leaves yet. So click on here, let it compile its shaders. Yeah, would have to do some resizing, because those are some really big ass leaves. Yeah, I'll have to look into that. I've never messed with having to resize the material that way. I'm using theirs, and all I did was I created the layer info. Let me look in here and look at the layer info. You got physics material, which we don't have one. Debug color, hardness, and color. No, not in that. So if anybody knows how to actually do that, get with me later, because I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to do it. I've never done it before. Doesn't mean that I can't do it. It's just I've never tried. But you can see the scale of these are a little bit on the too large side. Must have crossed over into another tile there. So the material itself, let's actually take a look at the material. That was in base, matte terrain base. So here's your layer blend, and the video I did earlier shows how to create that and how to name those and that kind of stuff. But if you look at your layer blend, there's 9 array elements, and leaves is 0, 1, 2, well, there's more than that. So Pebbles, let's see here. Preview weight. No, I don't see that in here. I will have to come back to that. I don't know. Yeah, large, medium, small, and tiny for each. So obviously I'm not using these correctly. So I feel like a dummy because I don't know. I just have never used them before. I think they're freaking awesome. And I don't like anything to whip my tail, so you go to Leaves Green, let it do its thing here, and alright, so that's just huge. I don't want it to be that large. Let's see here. Paint. Circle brush. Pattern. Component. Smooth fall off. Linear. Tip. Don't have a clue. And it's not anything to do with the brush size, because if I make the brush size smaller and go back in here to my rocks, it's still the same size rocks. It's just the brush is smaller. I've already created my layer info. I don't have a clue. So that's something I'm going to have to spend some time working on, or if somebody else has an idea on what I'm doing wrong there, let me know, in Discord preferably. Of why I have oversized brush here, or the actual material itself is being applied really, really large. Unless it's because the way that I created the landscape. Manage. Let's see here. Yeah. That really didn't help. You can see these are scaled up. I mean, I could scale my terrain down and can make part of the difference there. Well, again, something to look at. I guess that's part of whenever I created my terrain. Come in here to my landscape, and if I don't like it, grab landscape and Gizmo Activator, delete both of them, and I can come back over here and create it all over again. Overall final resolution of the new landscape and vertices. Never really messed with that. Size here, section size. I would never really mess with that either. I've always done 63 by 63, and that's the individual little small quads here. The sections, one section by one section. Default is like 8 by 8, which is pretty big. But I'm just curious if I actually imported a landscape material or a landscape from a terrain. So let's actually click here, go to this, import from file, and let's see what happens here. Now I've got numerous videos here on doing this. Terrains. How about the Moab terrain? let's see, 4K. Let's go with this one. Now, the one thing I did notice on this one right here is it is really, really, really chunky. So if I hit import, some of the actual hills and stuff are going to be really spiky. So what I would want to do is go into here and smoothing and go ahead and increase my brush size. Now this is a really damn big map. So you really want to go ahead and do a lot of smoothing. And the only reason why you really want to do a lot of smoothing is because when you start applying materials, it'll minimize the amount of tearing of your materials. I'm going to definitely have to turn up my camera speed. So you can see these look okay here, but look at right here how the diamond shaping of the materials. So if I do a smoothing, it smooths out the way that the material is going to get applied to it. Like some of that terrain is just kind of too rocky, too nasty looking, so we can just kind of clean it up a little bit. Doing it this method, I have found that the outside edges, for some reason, always get stupid looking. It's like they there's a flat ring around the edge. So you really want to go ahead and spend a lot of time just when you're doing something like this, just going over your with your smoothing tool and smoothing off all the edges. There's a shortcut tool for doing this, but it kind of gives you an idea to actually look at your terrain. I mean, you look at it like this, it doesn't look like it's that big a terrain. It is. This is actually going to be relatively big terrain. And it took me, what, a couple moments here just to create this terrain? It's because I already had the file, but, I mean, doing my videos, if you follow my videos for doing importing real-world terrains, you know, this is going to be good enough just for... I'm not even going to keep this project. So, yeah, just smooth your terrain. And I'm going to go ahead and go to... Actually, we're going to come right over here, and I'm going to put a player start in. Actually, where is my player start? F. I'm actually going to go ahead and if you can tell by looking at the size of the capsule now compared to where we were at just a moment ago. So now if we hit play, we have a pretty damn big world, and that's a hell of a first step. So you can see this was hell of a way to quickly import really large terrains. Now this is a really drastic terrain that I actually pulled in. It's not something that I would want to use for normal, unless I was doing like a flying thing, or I don't know, perhaps if I just filled this up with water and I want to be able to go diving, or, you know, what have you. But it's a little bit too drastic for anything. So, be the same thing. World outliner, details, Click on the landscape. Have your material selected, landscape material, and load. We all went to black. You have to go back over here, go back to the same thing we did before, and we actually have, or had these already created, so let's see if we still have them, and we do. So for our grass layer info, we should be able to just now do that. There we go. So now it would just be a matter of going through the list here. Next one is sand, rock, Pebbles Sand, pebbles, leaves, snow, leaves green. So since we already got them created, you know, makes it a little bit easier to work with. So there we go. But here's the fun part, is you got all these different tiles. It's 324 tiles now. So if I come in here and want to paint with mud, as soon as I click, I can actually start painting. I do want to make sure that my fall off is kind of drastic on this. Brush size a little bit too large, but you get the picture. I did a lighting build on this. This is going to take me probably 324. It'll probably take about a half hour, depending on how much I actually do with it. The larger your maps, the larger your terrain, the larger your other stuff, you're going to start having larger terrain builds. And yes, this is exceeding into areas where I don't want the mud to go, but that is not a problem. Because if I was actually going to keep this map, I would actually go with a smaller brush and change my fall off size and things of that nature. But I are not worried about it. Like I said, this is a temporary project. You ass, you had to go right up against the damn wall. So the more time you actually spend painting your terrain and getting it to look right, this I actually want to go ahead and change my fall off. See, everywhere that I'm applying this new material, it's got to recompile the shaders for that section. So you adjust your fall off so it blends a little bit nicer into the side. I said I'm not so much worried about this map because I'm not going to keep it. You ass. You had to do that, didn't you? The more time you spend painting your terrain, the better it's going to look in the long run. Instead, if I was worried about this, I would actually change my brush sides and actually work on one area until I got it exactly how I wanted it. Not so much worried about this for this map, just because as soon as I get done with this video, I'm deleting the project. So a lot of times, just for these streams, I'll create a project just for the stream, and then delete it as soon as I'm done. Got so many projects to keep up with that I don't need more of them hanging around. Got a couple that I use just for streams, but a lot of times I'll actually just create one just for the stream and let it be that, you know. So you got that, and looks lovely. Alright, so that's that. No other questions. We're at the hour mark, so it's our time for me to call it quits. Got to keep these videos no longer than an hour. And if there's no questions, then I'll just shut them closed. If you guys want, I will stream again here later. But I need to actually get some work done on my game. Being sick and dealing with this tooth issue and everything else, I've lost out on over a week because of this mess. Alright. Thank you guys for watching. No, don't save. And just kind of show you projects like this. Why are you here? I did not ask you to stay up there. That was in... Was that in whatever? No, that wasn't even in whatever. That was in... Hell, I don't even know what project that was called. Hell, I got a whole separate one there for Polygon Nature. Don't need that one. Yeah, I need to clean these things up. Materials. That's the one we were just on. So I'm just going to right click and delete. Alright guys, thanks for watching, and we'll see you around.